Gazing upon the landscape of Jerusalem unfolds a narrative far beyond the ordinary. The terrain of Israel itself whispers secrets, and one secret it reverently holds is the very name of God, etched into the geography as if by divine proclamation. In a time when Israel stands at the center of global attention, the message seems almost thunderous. This land is divinely claimed. This revelation is not of any common designation, but the most sacred name, one so hallowed that it escapes the lips of the devout only in hushed reverence, lest it be mispronounced. The marvel of this discovery is magnified by its precise location, adjacent to Beth El, which translates from Hebrew as the house of God. Nestled strategically between Jerusalem and Shiloh, Beth El is a site steeped in celestial connections, famously linked to the vision of Jacob's ladder. Here, in this spiritually charged space, the land itself seems to declare its holy allegiance through the contours and crevices that spell out God's sacred name. How profound is it that the earth here speaks of divinity? Just understanding what happened in this place, what it's called, and what God is revealing through the geography creates chills down your spine. But this is not the first time God announces His name in a spectacular way in Israel. If we look at the topography of Jerusalem, the most holy city, we will also see the name of God. Here's how. The three main valleys in Jerusalem form the Hebrew letter Shin. This is a letter you will often see in Israel on the doorposts and gates, because this letter is the first letter in the title of God, Shaddai. So, once again, we have a letter that represents the name of God, El Shaddai, embedded in the topography of Jerusalem. Amazing. But that's not all. Some time ago, there also was the most holy name of God spotted on the walls of Jerusalem. This time, the most holy name of God appeared on the wall next to the most holy place on earth, the Temple Mount. Now, if that doesn't speak to you, then I don't know what will. God is clearly saying to the whole world, this place belongs to me, and I will decide what will happen with it. I will decide who will receive it. The world will not divide the Holy Land that God has chosen and sovereignly given to the Jewish people. Just listen to the Bible when it says that God has put His name in Jerusalem. And despite this idol worship that was happening in Israel at the time of the Jewish kings, He is reminding them that in Jerusalem He has put His name, and so they should remember it and not defile the most holy place. Also, He built altars in the house of the Lord, whereof the Lord had said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. But go ye now into my place which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first. So, we do have two references in the Bible that tell us that God does put His name in specific places. We have Jerusalem, of course, and Shiloh. Shiloh was even before Jerusalem, where the tabernacle was set. And between those two important biblically places, Jerusalem and Shiloh, we have the appearance of the most holy word in the Hebrew language, the most holy name of God. And this is located just next to the city of Bethel, the house of God. This is just mind-blowing. It is not only amazing, but it also should be a warning to the world, because the world is about to force Israel to divide the land, to divide Eretz Israel, given to the chosen people by God. Now, just look where all of those three places are located. Shiloh and Bethel are located in the so-called West Bank, and Jerusalem is located just outside of it. But actually, East Jerusalem, so the most holy place on earth, where the Temple Mount is located, according to the world, should be given back to the Arabs. This is the decision of the world. And when Israel is pressured more and more by the world to give back the land that was given to them by God, then God gives a strong warning by proclaiming His name. God is saying, this land belongs to me, and it's called Judea and Samaria, and not the West Bank. So today I want to continue the series I began last week about the creation of Israel and the miracle that happened when Israel was created again. But before I will continue, I would like to ask you to share this video, give a like, and hit that bell button. This small action doesn't require much from you, but it is a tremendous help for me in the video to reach more people. So if you think this is important, please share this video. With that out of the way, let's begin our new episode. The 20th century changed the balance of power in Europe. The countries of Central Europe and the Ottoman Empire saw the 20th century as an opportunity to expand their power. And the means by which they decided it will happen was war. The price of this horrible war was 40 million deaths. The alliance of the German and Ottoman Empire failed, and their empires disintegrated. Those changes were also essential for the creation of Israel in the Holy Land after 2,000 years. The British troops defeated the Ottoman army, and on the 11th of December 1917, the British General Allenby with his troops entered Jerusalem. Now, there is a funny story about how this happened. You see, everybody was waiting for this glorious moment. You have to realize that since the Crusaders, no Christian force was in Jerusalem. Everybody was very excited, and the city of Jerusalem was also waiting just inside the old city next to the Jaffa Gate. The cook of the British army entered first, and as he entered the old city, everybody thought it's General Allenby. So orchestra started playing music. The mayor was getting ready to give the keys. But then they found out it's the cook. And as everybody looked at the cook asked, "I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to know if we have eggs for the general." So the eggs, of course, were there, and soon after Allenby entered the gate. But that was not the end of the surprises. Allenby was approaching the gate on his horse, and everybody thought he's going to come as a great victor. You know, in the style of Alexander the Great, of Pompey, something like that. But then something very unexpected happens. The general gets down from his horse and starts walking. This was very unexpected. Everybody started looking at him. What is he doing? Why? This is not according to the plan. Later on, when he was asked why he did that, he said, "How can I come on a horse when my master came on a donkey?" Quite incredible. And those were exciting times for the Christian world when once again Christians were ruling the holy city. The English newspapers were reporting this as a Christmas gift because Christmas was just about to happen. But to understand what happens next, we actually need to go back in time before World War I. Allow me to introduce you to Chaim Weizmann, another Jewish man that had a tremendous impact on the creation of Israel. Mr. Weizmann was a British man and the world's famous chemist. He invented acetone, which became an essential component of the smokeless powder, which helped the British Empire to win the war. Mr. Weizmann's impact on the creation of Israel is best illustrated by his interaction with Arthur Balfour, a representative of the right-wing party in Britain. Mr. Balfour, at the beginning of his political career, was not very sympathetic towards the Jews. He could be even called an anti-Semite. But at that time, it was quite popular. Only later in his career, he started supporting the idea of the creation of the nation of Israel. Of course, he's best well known for the Balfour Declaration, of which we will talk later. So Lord Balfour didn't have a lot of love for the Jewish people in the beginning, but he wanted to somehow manage this Jewish vote that was important for the Conservative Party. At that time, the British came up with this excellent idea of creating a space for the Jewish people in Uganda, in Africa. At that time, Lord Balfour said to Chaim Weizmann, "Well, look, we have this colony, we have many colonies, so we can give you one. You know it's not the best, but look at Israel right now. It's also not looking good. So you have swamps there, but eventually you will be able to transform that, create something, and it will be nice. It's warm there, like in Israel, so you know, you should take it, because there's nothing else we can offer you." And then Chaim Weizmann said, "With all due respect, Mr. Balfour, but this is unacceptable. Imagine it's something like somebody would say to you, 'We'll give you Paris instead of London.'" Mr. Balfour looked at him and said, "But it's not the same. We have London." And then Weizmann said, "Well, it's not our fault that in London you had pigs running in the fields when we had our kingdom in the land of Israel." What is interesting is that 10 years after that, in 1917, the same person, Mr. Balfour, no longer an anti-Semite, signs the so-called Balfour Declaration. At that time, Mr. Balfour is already the Foreign Minister of Great Britain, and this document makes his name famous forever. And this is also 2,000 years since a major power in the world acknowledges the right of the Jewish people to have a home. This is huge. Of course, the British were quite smart, because a home for the Jewish people, as it is written in this document, can mean many things. It doesn't necessarily have to mean the state of Israel. They are very crafty in creating documents and then working around them. They know what words to use. Nevertheless, this was something, and this gave hope to the Jewish people. And remember what happens. A few months later, the British enter Jerusalem, and they start ruling the Holy Land. Perfect timing, isn't it? After World War I, the whole Near East is under the control of the British and the French, the ones that won World War I. Because the British ruled the territory that today is Israel, they were in power in the position of giving this land to whoever they wished. And it looked like this is great for the Jewish people. But then the British changed their mind. So we did discuss the influence of Hein Weizmann on the ruling class in England. Because he was a genius chemist, he provided a lot of value for the Great Britain, and he used this value of his to influence the leaders of Great Britain. A person who he also influenced was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Lloyd George. Mr. George was raised on the Bible, and the things of the Bible were very dear to him. And Weizmann quickly saw that and started to talk with George in a very particular way. Instead of talking about the politics, about the land of Palestine, he switched to using biblical terms. He was telling the stories of Rebekah, of Abraham, of all the cities in biblical Israel, Shechem, Jerusalem, Hebron. So he was using all those biblical terms, and he was seeing an emotional reaction from George Lloyd, for whom all those terms were very important and very dear to his heart. I think the best way to illustrate how this love towards Israel grew in the heart of George Lloyd is by one story. The day the war ended, Weizmann was supposed to meet Lloyd in his office, and the meeting was being delayed. Weizmann didn't know what's happening, so he patiently waited. Finally, George invited Weizmann to his office, and Weizmann sees that Lloyd's face is all covered with tears. He was reading the Psalms all morning, and then he said to Weizmann, "Out of all this evil of this World War I, the only good thing that happened was a way for Israel to be created." So to sum up, after World War I, things were finally looking positive for the Jewish people. Since the 1st century AD, the Jewish people were all over the world. There wasn't really a country, a region in the world where the Jewish people were not present. And we did talk in my last episode how this was prophesied by God, that He will scatter them all over the world. Now in the 19th and 20th century, we are finally seeing the return of the Jewish people to the Holy Land, which again was prophesied by God, that it will happen even before they entered the land for the first time. And after World War I, it is much easier for the Jewish people to return to the land. Thanks to the Balfour Declaration we talked about, and thanks to the favor, in general, of the British Empire. So after World War I, the Jews took advantage of this favor and started returning to the Holy Land. And during this time, we had several of those alias. Aliyah means going up, because when you return to Jerusalem, Jerusalem is located on mountains, so you have to go up. And this is the period when the population of the land of Israel increased significantly. As we discussed during the Ottoman Empire, this was a desert. Nobody lived there, really. There was a high tax on trees, so nobody wanted to live there because it was a desert. But as the Jews started coming to this region, the economy of this place was also growing because people were building houses, people were employing workers. Also, the Arabs started migrating to this place because they found jobs there. And there was hope in this region finally. And as this region became more and more attractive, more and more Arabs started saying, "Why should we give this to the Jews? We should take it. It's ours." And this is really when the favor of Great Britain started to end, because the British were very concerned with the Arab nations that were much larger of a population than the Jewish people, and they had oil. But this is a story we will cover in my next episode. In this episode, we discuss the events of World War I and what happened after that great war. And in the next episode, we'll talk about the events of the Second World War, which was a tremendous event for the Jewish people. Many things happened in that period that are crucial for the story of Israel. So make sure you sign up to my channel to see that, to be informed when the new episode comes out. And just to comment on what I said in the beginning, when the name of God is appearing at Bethel, it's visible in Jerusalem, it's visible in Israel. When this is happening and the world says, we need to divide this land, God is not happy. Israel is pressured more and more to divide this land. But guess what? Even when all the nations will go against Israel, God will not abandon his nation, because he has sworn on his name that the name of Israel will never be wiped out. You can support us with the Super Thanks button below. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications in order to be informed about new videos. Our contents are carefully prepared by our expert team. Thank you for watching us.